Hi, this is Danny, and I wanted to share something that I learned about communication. I learned through communicating with my wife, and something not to do, and then something to do. So, my wife and I would talk, and my wife would share ideas. So she'd say like a sentence or a word. She's like, this is her thing that she's trying to communicate. So she would say an idea like, say there's three ideas like A, B, and C. So this is, my wife's name is Kathy with a K. So this is Kathy's, what she was trying to share with me, these three ideas, A, B, and C. And what I would do when I would hear her, Danny, is, and I'll put a line here, is I would hear her A, and in my head, I would hear her B, but I would add them together. And then when I heard her C idea, I would add that in, and then I would do an equals, and I would put A, B, C over here. So she would communicate three ideas that are separate, or in her mind separate. I would hear her three ideas, and I would put them together. I would do an addition, and then what I would say in response to her, rather than talking about her individual ideas, what I would say in response is, oh, so what you're saying is this. And I would want to talk about this. And I had a problem with that she was saying this because of what it meant, usually about me. So she would say, maybe there's issues. Well, here's issue A, here's issue B, here's issue C. And I say, okay, you're saying these three issues, so that means this about me, and it wasn't good. You know, I don't like how that's adding up. So when I started talking about this, she would usually say, that's not what I said. And I would say, yes, it's obviously what you said. And I would go back through her argument, and I would say, see, that's what you said. And she would just be frustrated at that point because it's not actually what she said, even though the way I understand it, I'm hearing it that way and I'm putting it together that way. That isn't actually what she said. So she's frustrated, yet she doesn't know how to explain to me the problem. So finally one day she said, you can't add things up like that. I think I said something like that to her. I said, look, add up all your ideas. This is what it equals. And she said to me back, you can't add things up like that. That's not what I think. And so I never thought about that before. I guess for me, when I'm listening to someone, I guess I'm thinking of a response, or I'm trying to feel like, how are they trying to, especially when it's maybe a negative thing, I'm trying to think of a way to counter or something like that. And so what would happen is I would be ready with this thing, and then of course I'm only talking about this rather than actually just going through these ideas simply. And so what I learned I have to do when talking with her, and really anybody, I don't think it's fair to do this because her thought process is not the same as mine. And since the ideas come from her, we have to listen to what she's actually thinking or the other person's actually thinking. So we don't know if this is a plus or a minus or maybe a multiplier, right? So there's a question. We don't really know how she's connecting those two ideas. And the same thing here, we don't really know how she's connecting these two ideas. And if we don't know how she's connecting ideas, we certainly cannot come up with an answer, right? So, and I use the question mark for reason because we don't know, but also because this is something to do in this situation. So when my wife is telling me these ideas, instead of me, I can do this, like I could say, okay, in an imaginary, like dotted line, it's not final. I can write that out, or it's not final, and say, is this what you're saying? And then ask it in a question form. So, but even better than that is to say, okay, let's take idea A that you said, whatever it is, and how does idea A connect with idea B in your mind? And let her tell me. And on with C, and then on with what's the conclusion in your mind of these issues. So it could be that her conclusion is the same as my conclusion. So it could be that it was added up, but if I do the math for her and tell her that's what it is, then she doesn't know how I got there exactly, and we're disconnected. Even if it's what I said, it doesn't matter because we're disconnected because she's not following me in the thought process. And same for me. She needs to follow me in my thought processes. So I'm not blaming anybody, just saying how we were able to connect better. So when my wife shares ideas with me, what's important to her is that I talk about each idea individually, and I can ask a question about this idea. I could share my thoughts with that idea, and then, she can ask me questions about my idea. And then when I have two ideas, I ask her, how do they go together in your mind? What this also does is it leaves the possibility that maybe, let's say, for instance, these add up to this thing that I thought was bad. Maybe she says, oh, I can see that added up, and then she wants to change something. So she says, oh, well, I see that added up to that, and that's not really not what I really mean, so let me back up, and she'll change something in her equation, right, to whatever idea, another idea. So it's a way to, when we ask the questions, instead of adding it up and being ready for a response, when we hear the idea, and they know we heard the idea, this one, not the one we concluded, but this one, and then we go through each step with questions, making sure that we're connecting it the way they're connecting it. Maybe sometimes they don't see a connection at all. She may not see a connection, or I won't see a connection when she's talking to me, but she'll bring up the connection to me, and she'll fill in this thing that I never thought of. So for us, it's been a way for us to, when I stopped adding up her thoughts and telling her what she means, and telling her, making that the way I interpret what she's saying be what only thing I'll talk about, and I let her talk and I talk, and we can both change our ideas, and it's fluid, and it's much better way to communicate. And I think it works better with everybody when we just stop, even though it's like, I really think that's what you're saying, and this is how it adds up. And that's okay to say, but to say it in a way that's a question. And then why do you see it differently? Something like that, because it just helps a ton. It relieves like pressure that I don't have to be so right, and she doesn't have to be right. And we can kind of work through the ideas, not confuse each other. And it's just really helped us come and try to be on the same page. So that's what I learned. I would say, don't add it up. So when someone's talking to you, don't add up what they're saying and give them the total. Talk about what they're saying and ask them how they're adding it up in their mind and how they're working through all the different ideas. And then you can share how you work through the ideas and how you think they add up. And you guys, me and her, or you and someone else, can come to this place that's much more friendly. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm getting to know my wife much better by simply letting her explain what she thinks and why. And I think she's getting to know me too, and we're getting to actually see each other's thought processes rather than fighting because they're different. So they're different. It's a blessing. It's good that they're different, and helps me, helps her, and we both love it when we're on the same page, meaning we're both communicating and understand each other, and letting each other be who we are. So anyways, I thought I'd share that. I hope that helps. God be with you.